Hey, it's me, Egbert. E-G-G-B-U-R-T. Check out my website at egbert.com. Now it's back to those two dudes who told me they would bring in big ratings. They better are their history. Here are Brad and John.
That is John Combest, C-O-M-B-E-S-T. We do this show live. For those of you listening on the podcast or on our YouTube channel, which is bjshow.video. You can go directly to our YouTube channel by using that address. We do the show live Monday through Friday, 7 to 8 a.m. If you want to listen live, you can stream it. You can do that kind of stuff. Listen off air at 104.5 Egbert. But we then put it up on the channels, various podcast channels. It goes everywhere and on YouTube and stuff like that, so you can find it in the past. Now, the reason I mention that is, and you may not be listening to this episode in order, the previous episode we were talking about the fact that Casey Kasem, who died, was originally, matter of fact, let me just read this story. This is a TMZ story. You ready for this, John?
I am, yeah.
This is from July 18th of 2014. So we're talking over 10 years ago. This is TMZ. And the title is Casey Kasem Body Missing. Casey Kasem has been dead for more than a month. He's not yet been buried, and now we've learned his body is missing. Fingers now point in the direction of Casey Kasem's widow, Jean. Family sources say Jean took the body from a funeral home the day before a judge ordered her to keep it there so an autopsy could be performed. The autopsy is crucial to an ongoing criminal investigation in targeting Jean. The Santa Monica PD is looking into elder abuse allegations that Jean took Casey on a wild, week-long multi-state car ride, which caused him to develop bed sores that had got infected and contributed to his death. Jean and Casey's children have been at war for years. As for where the body is, no one but Jean seems to know, and no one can find her either. It's interesting. Jean listed Jerusalem as her address on Casey's death certificate. Jerusalem. Casey's daughter Carrie believes Jean is out of the country with Casey's body. We reached out to Jean's people. So far, no word back. Okay, this story has gone on for a decade, and she finally ended up in Norway. And I think the reason for that was, there were places she was trying to get him buried, but with this being a high-profile case, a lot of the areas, I think it was certain places in the United States and it was foreign countries, they say, we can't give you a burial permit here. And somehow or another she cajoled, don't you like that word? My mom used to use that all the time. Cajoled
cajoled them, yes.
Norwegian government to have him buried in Norway. Now the kids and Carrie is the one who is the most adamant on this. She's essentially crusading to have his body exhumed from Norway and brought back to some funeral or some cemetery in Hollywood. I mean, is that bizarre or what? I mean,
so is that just based on, is it general pettiness? Like, there has to be a lot of long-term anger or resentment going on here.
I have well, see, they claim, this is what they claim. They claim that Casey supported his kids, and Jean claims that the reason that she's doing this is because enough is enough. Casey gave all this money to his kids, and do you remember her? She was in, do you know who I'm talking about?
No, I don't remember.
Did you ever watch the she's in a couple different sitcoms, and she was in some movies. She's a very tall lady. I think she was in Cheers. She was one of the characters in Cheers.
Oh, really? I'll look her up.
Yes, and she's very tall, and I think she's like 6 feet tall, which makes her sort of interesting next to Casey, because I believe Casey was relatively short.
Yeah, he was a short guy. He's a short king.
Yeah, and this is gonna drive me nuts because of the fact that now it's a short trip. I believe I don't know if he was born in the United States. I think his real name is something different.
She was on Cheers. You were right. And then there was a short-lived spinoff called The Tortellis.
Right. His real name his last name is correct. His first name is Kemal, Kemal. Middle name Amin, Amin, Kasem. He's born in 1932. Where was he born? He's born in Detroit, Michigan, but he's of, I'm trying to think, early life, okay. Was born in Detroit, Michigan, to Lebanese, yes, Lebanese Druze immigrants. Helen and Amin Kasem, who were grocers, was named after Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, a man Kasem said his father had respected. Kasem's parents did not allow their children to speak Arabic and insisted they assimilate into American life. We need more people like them, don't you think, John?
Yeah, that's right. That's absolutely. Hey, that's one of your big rants, Brad.
Well, okay. Can I give you another one? And John, we touched on this a couple of weeks ago, and I don't want to necessarily sound like I'm being some right-wing conspiracy.
Oh, here you go, right-wing conspiracy theorist.
Tinfoil hat, Real Talk 93.3 listener kind of.
But.
Okay. Let's do a little. I'm talking about different radio stations. Let's do the Tony Colombo flip test, okay? Let's say that once upon a time, Donald Trump, it was found out that Donald Trump had sex with his kid's nanny, and the nanny got pregnant. And all of a sudden this came out that, 20 years ago, the reason Donald Trump got divorced the first time was that he had sex with one of his kid's nanny, and she became pregnant. And don't you think the press would be like in a full court press, pardon the pun, to find out who this woman was, where she is now, and what was the disposition of the love child, so to speak, okay? Wouldn't you think that would be... you've pointed that out before. You've used the example that they would be staking out this woman's house to talk to her. Right, okay. However, but your point is... the soon-to-be president, Kamala Harris, her husband, it came out a couple weeks ago that the reason he got divorced from his first wife was he had an affair with his nanny, his kid's nanny, and got her pregnant. And then the story ends. And nobody has said, and I've read a couple different things. There's like, okay, did the nanny have an abortion? Did she have the kid? And the only thing I've ever seen was she no longer has the kid, which could mean that she could have given the child up for adoption. It could have been adopted, or she no longer has the kid. That could be a sort of a euphemism of abortion, correct? So in other words, if you say, well, I no longer have the baby, that could be, a way of saying. That could be one thing, for sure. Okay. Why is it that this isn't happening? I don't see, and I already know the answer. And the reason I want to tell you the story is I read this fascinating article about these people who are trying to complain to a restaurant in Pittsburgh that's happened over the weekend, and one guy is trying to take legal action, okay? Have you heard about this bizarre story? No, I haven't. No. Okay. Before I tell this story, let me tell you the reason why I don't think we'll ever have another Republican president elected. I don't think Trump has a chance. I really don't. I think he's gone, and I think it's a moot fact that Kamala Harris is going to be the next president of the United States, okay? The reason I say that is because everyone is controlled now by media and by big tech, social media, X and Alphabet and all that, TikTok, all those kind of things, okay? And all the big tech people are Democrats. All the Hollywood types are Democrats. Very few. Matter of fact, there's a story just the other day about Dennis Quaid. He came out as a movie where he plays Reagan, and he's claiming that he's being banned in Hollywood now, that nobody will hire him anymore, and that he's promoted this on social media. His team has promoted this new movie on social media, and all the posts have been taken down, this kind of stuff. Okay, so the Dems are in control of Hollywood, and they're in control of social media. So we already know. Matter of fact, there was a thing I heard yesterday. They said that of the recent reports, and they said that 84% of the reports about Kamala have been positive. And this is like they took like a week-long slice, and they investigated all these top news sites. And then they said 89% of the Trump stories have been negative. So in other words, it's all stuff like that. Okay. Yeah. Having said that, the story out of Pittsburgh is there's people in this restaurant. Apparently, it's a fairly popular restaurant, and they're sitting there on a Saturday afternoon. Apparently, the Pittsburgh Pirates are on TV. They're playing a game, and it's 3:30, and the bartender gives last call, 3:30 in the afternoon, and one of the patrons says, "Last call? It's 3:30 in the afternoon," and she says, "Well, the restaurant has been booked by a private party, and everybody has to be out by 4 o'clock. So some people are going like, no, hold on a minute now. We're here to have lunch, late lunch, early dinner, whatever. We want to, and the guy's saying he's sitting there at the TV watching the Bucks on TV. He wants to watch the end of the game. No, sorry. You have to finish your drinks. You have to finish your meal by 4 o'clock. So everybody's going like, what in the world's going on? Saturday, 4 o'clock? Who is it? We're getting kicked out of this restaurant. So pretty soon, you hear, where this is headed?
No, I don't.
Pretty soon, a couple of the people stick around and go like, what the hell's going on? They notice that there's vans, these shuttle vans, showing up with people in them. And the vans open up, and all these people get out, very well-dressed, nice-looking people. Pretty soon, a Kamala Harris bus pulls up. The Harris campaign, hold on a minute, let me clear my throat. The Harris campaign has bought the restaurant for a private party, which is a fake photo shoot where they have brought in all the people who are quote unquote diners, who are not really diners. Some of them are actors and actresses. Some of them are friends, but they're all exactly picked to show a very social, economic diversity at the various tables. Okay,
sure.
So they say like at 6 o'clock, Kamala gets there, and then they sent out a press release to several of the local TV stations in Pittsburgh, and one of the stations, I believe an ABC affiliate, comes and gets totally duped by the fact that they're at a restaurant and Kamala just, quote, happened to show up at this restaurant, and she's working the tables. She's walking, hi, I'm Kamala Harris. And I'm thinking to myself, this is why there will never be another Republican president, because the Democrats, the Hollywood types, the PR people that are behind the Democrats in general, they know how to pull strings. Now, think about this for a minute. You, as a comms person, you're probably sitting there thinking to myself, wow, this is so smart. This is the worst.
I mean, it's really good. And it looks believable, I'm sure, too.
Right, because of the fact that once again, she just happened to show up at that restaurant, and everybody in there is, oh my God, Kamala's going to be such a great president. And they're all very nicely dressed. Once again, they're all,
of course,
attractive people. And some of them were literally actors and actresses. They weren't hired to sit there and do peas and carrots. You know peas and carrots, don't you?
Is that what they say so that it looks like they're really talking?
Yeah, supposedly the story is anytime you see a restaurant scene in a movie that everybody in the restaurant, who is not on camera, they're supposed, and you want that murmur. Everybody's supposed to say peas and carrots, peas and carrots, peas and carrots, back and forth. So if a couple sitting at a table, the man says peas and carrots, peas and carrots, peas and carrots, and then the woman turns around and looks at him and says peas and carrots, peas and carrots, peas and carrots. So that it gives you this, and they say it obviously at different times, so it becomes like that murmur of the crowd. So, I mean, John, honestly, I know when I gave that story, you are probably thinking, from a comms guy, and John used to be a comms guy, and comms meaning, in the old days they call him the PR person. In the industry, sometimes they're still called flacks. How did that term ever come about? Where did that term come from? Is that like flack?
I don't have, I've never done a deep dive on that. On my shelf, I have a book called Why You Say It, so I'll look that up while we're talking, Brad.
Okay, so your opinion on this, do you think this is okay, or do you think it's like, it's stacking the deck?
Well, it's clearly like, so I'm guessing what they did was, this is the first time I've heard of this. I'm guessing that the campaign put it together and wanted to take B-roll. So you want to explain what B-roll is? B-roll
is, if you see, and probably perfect example, it happens all the time in news. You have the stand-up person, the stand-up reporter. She stands in front. Like, for example, there was that horrendous house fire in Hazelwood, which maybe we'll talk about. The reporter gets out there, and she's standing in front of the house, and she's saying, Mr. and Mrs. Smith had their house torched. And then what she does what they call a voiceover. And then there is pictures of the house, and there's a shot of the garage with the doors missing, and there's a shot of, they put their drone up in there and they show the roof being gone. That's all B-roll. So in other words, what they're doing is they're getting photographers or videographers, whatever they're using. Everybody's using video now. They're using videographers. They're going on and they're just shooting tables. They're shooting here's Mr. and Mrs. Jones sitting at this table, and here's a waitress walking across the room with a table of beer, with a platter of beer. That's all B-roll.
Yeah. So my guess is that the campaign wanted to put it together to get some really good B-roll of her talking to real people at a cafe, And while you're there, Brad, if you're at a restaurant, why not invite the local media and have the media come in? Because then you get, as you've done a great job over the last few months describing, Brad, you get the earned media from the Pittsburgh market, an important geographic market, of being like, look, Kamala's here. She's meeting. I wonder if any of our friends are in the diner saying peas and carrots. Oh, no, they're Hollywood actors. But so you get the benefit of all the B-roll. And you probably know this already, Brad. But the good thing is, for political campaigns, because there are so many independent expenditure groups or outside groups, what campaigns do is they'll put B-roll up on their own campaign website, up on the official Kamala Harris, Tim Walz website. There'll be a whole bunch of B-roll. And they put it up there so that independent expenditure groups can go in, pull the B-roll. So when Americans for California facials wants to have Willie Brown do a testimonial for Kamala, they can pull B-roll from the Harris website of her talking at a diner, her asking for extra cream, whatever it is, and then that B-roll is on Kamala's website. So anyway, to me, it just seems like they had a really good B-roll opportunity. And why not invite local media in to get some earned media?
Well, but then, and here's probably the point that they're going to hammer with this, is they're going to say, well, look at Kamala Harris. She's one of the people. She shows up at a restaurant and she's working the tables. And when we talk to Donald Trump and he's invited in for a presser, where is it? It's at Mar-a-Lago. Think of the difference between Kamala and Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a multi-billionaire who invites the press to his multi-million-dollar or $18,000 abode, as the judge in New York say his place now. What is $18 million is worth? Whatever. And all the people down there are talking about, like, you can't buy an empty lot in that area for $18 million. So then they're spinning the thing. Donald's just a pompous rich person, whereas Kamala, she's one of the masses.
She's one of the people. And, it was her idea to not tax tips, too, Brad. I don't know if you heard that. Right. She has a great idea to not tax tips.
What's so funny about that is that, that's not going to happen. Because remember, here's the interesting thing, and this is where Trump's missing his calling on this, is he should be saying, yeah, like if you let Kamala be elected, she's going to go back on the thing because 80,000 IRS employees that they hired, the new 80,000 IRS employees, they're going to all the bars and restaurants to audit their books to make sure that those waitresses and waiters pay every cent they owe for taxes. You know what I'm saying? It's the point, like, okay.
Yeah. And then they can also track your Venmo. But you know what? It reminds me of something that a woman named Jean Kasem used to say.
What's that?
Which is keep your husband in the ground and keep reaching for the stars.
John,
it's an old Norway phrase, Brad. It's a Norway turn of phrase.
I don't believe you just said that. Okay, we have to take a break.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?